Hey, what's up? It's Domestic Rockstar. On this episode, we're going to talk about the top 5 metal albums of 2016. I have been super sick the last couple of weeks and I'm finally getting a little bit better. I had a chest respiratory infection and a sinus infection, which was no fun. And in the meantime, trying to maintain getting work done for the band and for my Etsy store and my regular job. So things have been super crazy, but I'm back to my regular routine and I wanted to share with everyone my top 5 favorite albums of 2016. Number 5. I know I said I wouldn't talk about Dillinger Escape Plan unless it was important, so I'll be brief, but Dillinger Escape Plan's Disassociation album this year is number 5 for me. It would be higher up if it wasn't so bittersweet that this is probably going to be their last album. And overall, I think it was a really good album. I think creatively, you can tell that they've kind of come to this culmination, this conclusion of the band, and I really like a lot of the lyrics. I like a lot of the songs. There's one song that I didn't really care for because it was kind of just a space filler, I think, but if you listen to the album, you'll totally understand. So number 5 would be Disassociation by Dillinger Escape Plan. To give a little bit of why I formulate some of my opinions on albums. As a singer, as a songwriter, a lyricist, a poet, in my own mind, I tend to gravitate towards vocals and towards lyricists that can write lyrics that I can relate to or that I am really inspired by. So most of the albums that are on my top 5 have to do with lyrics. They have to do with the singers. They have to do with the words that make the songs. I tend to not like a lot of bands that don't have really good vocalists or really good lyrics or cookie cutter stuff. Like I don't like bro metal. I don't like a lot of radio stuff, but hopefully if you're watching this, you tend to like the same kind of music I do, and that's why you're watching it. But anyway, so that to give you a little background on how I formulate what I like, what drives me to like what I like. So number 4 would be After the Burial's Dig Deep. Now, they don't have a great vocalist. I think he is very strong, a kind of typical hardcore, metalcore vocalist. The lyrics don't really inspire me a whole lot, but this is a exception in my taste where the music is just phenomenal. Their guitar player was super talented. I believe they had 2. I'm not sure if they had just one guitar player, but anyway, so this is also a bittersweet situation because their guitar player died earlier this year to really sad circumstances. You can look it up. It was all over on the metal news sites. But how I came to find out about After the Burial is kind of funny. So a few years ago, I was playing the game Saints Row. I think it was like 4, Saints Row 3 or 4. But in the game, they have tons of cool music that you can listen to when you're riding around in your car. But this one song kept standing out. And I would hear it in the background and be like, oh, that's cool. And then one day I was like, man, this song is freaking amazing. I need to find out who this is. So I looked it up online and found out that it was After the Burial and the song was Berserker. And to this day, that song is one of my favorite all-time songs. I love that song. It has these amazing breakdowns. The guitars are super phenomenal. There's so many technical changes that totally amplify the talent of the rest of the band, but it also has this groovy chunk in it that I dig. It's one of my favorite all-time songs. love it. So if you love to play video games, check out Saints Row. I think it's 3 or 4, but whatever. And if you love really good, talented metalcore guitars with super technical changes that can totally like make you just want to bounce your head in the car when you're driving, then check out After the Burial. Number 3 is Gojira's Magma. Now, I've liked Gojira for a long time. I don't own any of their past albums, but I totally dig this one. I saw them like 2 years ago play with Mastodon at House of Blues, and they were great. They put on a great performance. They're super talented, and it's really awesome that they're from France. Their songs, although very heavy and melodic, also are very political, and I think that one of my favorite songs on the album Magma, it's called Silvera, touches to kind of the situations we've been dealing with in 2016. So the lyrics of that song that stood out to me the most are, "Time to open your eyes to this genocide. When you clear your mind, you see it all. You're receiving the gold of a better life. When you change yourself, you change the world. When you change yourself, you change the world." That right now is a statement that I feel we all need to hear. Whether it's a personal situation that you're dealing with, or whether it's the political climate that we're dealing with right now, that is just such a strong statement. The rest of the songs on that album are very awesome as well. I've been listening to this nonstop. It's very melodic. It's a little bit more mature, I feel, than some of the last albums that they've done, but overall it's stellar. Next two probably won't be a surprise if you've been watching my show for a while, but number 2 would be Every Time I Die's Low Teens that came out this year. And it instantly became in my top 5 as soon as I heard it. Not only did I anticipate it because I had gotten so much into them, well, I guess I reawakened my like for them last year and the year before when they did Parts Unknown, which was a really great album. But Low Teens has a bit of a personal journey on it, and the lyrics touch to some of the situations that Keith Buckley had to deal with in the last couple years. Mostly their songs tend to be, or their lyrics tend to be very poetic, I would say. He writes very much like a poet. But my favorite song on this album is C++, otherwise known as Love Will Get You Killed. And for those who are fans of Every Time I Die know that I think it was a year or 2 years ago, he had to leave tour pretty abruptly because his wife was having an emergency during her pregnancy, and he needed to be there for her, and they had to have an emergency delivery of their child, which he oozes his personal situations into his lyrics, which I totally can relate to. And this song in particular, I sense a little bit about that. I mean, I'm not sure exactly if that's what it's about, but that's how I interpret it. But basically, my favorite line of that song is, "I'm gonna need another universe because I tore mine apart." And that, again, in a very personal situation, like sometimes you feel like you just need to escape. Like you deal with situations in a way that you shouldn't, and then you look back at it and you're like, man, I really could have handled that better. At least that's how I relate to those lyrics.
They can do what they want.
And then number 1, Norma Jean's Polar Similar. Again, it's probably not a surprise if you've been watching my show. I was super stoked to find out that Norma Jean was still together and that they had done this new album, and it did not disappoint. I cannot stop listening to this. And I actually got to see Norma Jean a few weeks ago. They played at Vinyl in the Hard Rock Hotel here in Vegas, and it was kind of a weird show. I don't know who put that tour together, but they were playing with some other bands that just were really young, kind of typical screamo metalcore that I wasn't too into. There was one band that played right before them called Silent Planet, which was pretty good. I had seen them on YouTube before, so I knew what style they were, and they were good. A little too religious for my taste, but I mean, they're talented. They put on a good show. The other bands, not so much. I didn't care for them. But Norma Jean totally needs to be on better tours. They need to be playing with bands that are around the same age as them, because they're like in their mid to late 30s. I believe the singer, Corey's like 42, but they've been around for a long time and they deserve to have better shows. They don't deserve to be playing to these like 13 and 14-year-old kids that are hardcore dancing that don't even know who Norma Jean really is.
Let's get those hands in the air!
But I dug them. They put on a great show. They're fun to watch. I kind of felt like I was super old at that show, but overall they put on a great show. I mean, I wish I would have saw them 10 years ago when I felt like getting in the pit and beating people up, but I'm too old for that shit now. But anyway, so Polar Similar is my number 1 favorite album this year. My favorite song on the album is called 1 Million Watts, and I sing the hook in that song all the time. My husband cracks up because I sing it in the shower, I sing it in the car. I just love this song so much. And the lyrics are, I feel bad that you're angry, but I'm sorry, I don't care for what it's worth. If it ever comes down to me or you, you're probably gonna die. The way he sings it is just haunting and awesome, and I just love it. I love it. So I definitely recommend that you check out Polar Similar if you haven't already. Norma Jean, I don't know if they're still on tour, but if you have a chance to check them out live, please do. They're great. So those are my top 5 favorite albums of this year. Again, that was number 5, Dillinger Escape Plan's Disassociation. Number 4, After the Burials Dig Deep. Number 3, Gojira's Magma. Number 2, Every Time I Die's Low Teens. And number 1, Norma Jean, Polar Similar. Check that shit out. And if you like the show, thumbs up and subscribe.